I need to stop thinking that books are going to change my life when TikTok tells me that a book is going to change my life. Put my cookie down, close the book, walked home. My only complaint is that not enough cannibalism. Hey, hi. It's been, wow, a long time. Hi, my name is Carrie. Welcome to the October wrap up. So late. I know. Where have I been? What have I been doing? I have been in Ireland, a brief moment in England, and then I was in Scotland for a bit. Had the time of my life. Got to spend 2 weeks with a bunch of bookish girls, and it was fantastic. Life-changing. However, I got home, and after about a 5-week-long trip, I did not leave my bed for 18 hours. I fell asleep on the couch, managed to drag myself to bed around 7 p.m., and I did not get out of bed until 2 p.m. the next day. So, yeah, I really thought that I was going to wake up, film this wrap up, get it to you, like, right on time. No. So it's a week later than expected. Thank you so much for your patience. Sorry I was MIA. I tried to throw a little rom-com video up for ya. Traumatizing. Did not expect that read to be what it was. Thank you for experiencing that with me. And if you are interested in seeing my Ireland, Edinburgh, and London vlogs, you can watch it on Caricakes, or you can check out my blog, which is caricakes.net, which leads me to thanking the wonderful Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I've used them for years. They are a wonderful place to host your online presence. I use it specifically for my blog, where I post kind of supplemental things. It's a great place to send anyone to if they like written directions. It's a great place to create a portfolio for work, for example. You can create kind of community settings. They have great comment sections and email lists. They have really easy to use and free templates so that click, your website looks professional. They have really easy to understand analytics, etc. Just super easy. Regardless of what you want it to be, you can have your own website up really easily thanks to Squarespace. So I will have a link in the description box. You can go to squarespace.com right now, play around with it, see how it feels, and then when you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/CarrieCanRead and get 10% off your first website or domain. So I will always have that linked in the description box if you want to check out an example of mine. Hooray! So yeah, thank you so much to Squarespace. All that information down below. And if you're not new to this channel, you know that on a regular month, my memory's shoddy. 5 weeks of every day is a new thing, running around, being in multiple countries, multiple long haul flights. We're going to be relying heavily on my notes. If I make a mistake when talking about a plot, for example, or if I sound a little loosey-goosey when it comes to some of my opinions on these books, it's because, God help me, I don't remember reading them. You know what? This is a wacky month. I say that every month, but truly the range shocks me. Also, just because I'm filming this in the middle of November, I can also say that November is going to be a really funny review because 2 of the books I've already read, because you know I read a rom-com on an airplane. 2 of the books I read are foul, marketed to me incorrectly, so that I thought I was going into something funny and light. And then all of a sudden there are, well, you'll have to wait and see. Shocked and appalled. Is all I can say. But let's talk about October. October was a weird one because I was traveling. We left on the 4th, and I was traveling the entire month. So I actually didn't have a whole lot of time to read. I read a little bit less than usual. A lot of these are novellas. So maybe if you are looking for a short book, I've got you. Unplanned, but here I am. Shall we begin? Also, yeah. Still super jet lagged. I've only been home for 4 days. If I'm going in and out, the camera's further away from me than usual because I literally feel like I look like death. I know that I don't. It's all in my head, but I'm running on 3 hours of sleep. With that in mind, let me begin. Starting off, what was the last book? Ugh, Carrie, come on. Hold on, I need to go to the past and see what I read in September because it matters. Okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. Okay. Starting with, I read These Heathens, I saw this on some book list. I don't know. I got it recommended to me from some article or listicle. These Heathens takes place in the 1960s, small town Georgia. This girl needs an abortion. She is the family's rock. We get some information about her mom. Basically, our girl is running the show. And we don't get details about what exactly happened, but she is not about to have a baby in her current situation. So she turns to the only person she can trust, which is her English teacher. So our girl and her teacher go off to Atlanta for the weekend to kind of get this procedure done. And in the process, our girl meets a really interesting mix of characters, mainly where they're staying. It is her high school teacher's friend, who is a very, very wealthy, very well-connected Black woman living in Atlanta, like gated community, mansion, gorgeous. And through her, we get a gaggle of characters, including a Martin Luther King Jr. cameo, which I thought was really funny. Actually, a lot of the King family shows up, but we have people who have a very different lifestyle from the small town Georgia, super Christian world that our girl was raised in, talking about having multiple lovers. I don't think this is a spoiler, but I'm pretty sure every woman in this book is a lesbian, which causes a lot of pearl clutching for our main girl. And we kind of follow her. Of course, like, it's very difficult to procure an abortion, even for the wealthier class. So what turns into a weekend turns into quite a few more days. She just continues to meet these people and just have her worldview expanded more and more. I thought this was good. I was honestly taking notes on the old-fashioned burns. Like, the insults were so funny. Like, it was just all of these like really elderly Black Southern women saying the rudest things in the nicest way. If you want some good insults, take notes. This was a great book. My kind of only complaint really is that the main character was a little inconsistent, just in the fact that she's like clutching her pearls over some of these things that she is being exposed to. But at the same time, she's super horny through the whole book. Like, she is trying to get an abortion, but she's also like chasing after pretty much every guy her age that shows up. It was a little odd, but overall I liked it. I think that I talk about this when I read Kat Sebastian as well. She writes historical romances. We don't see so many queer stories from the past. And so it was just cool to see, you know, some of the language used, or, you know, some of the ways that couples made it work in the 60s when being queer was absolutely not, especially in the South, was like not great. It was just very cool to see that represented. And also, I wrote in my notes, the reason why I had to go check back on what I was reading in September. It's funny that I ended September with reading Say Nothing, which is about the Troubles in Ireland. And this is, of course, about the civil rights movement in the 1960s. But it was just interesting that I read two books back to back that presented the argument that perhaps nonviolent protests don't work. And so it was just, I mean, both books argued both sides of that. But it was just quite interesting to see whether you were in Ireland or you were in Georgia. People were really discussing, like, how do we get people to listen to us? Yeah, just an interesting parallel. So yeah, that is These Heathens. If you were looking for a really quick, I'm pretty sure it was quite short, a little queer historical story with a lot of really great insults. These Heathens. Okay, after that, I read a book that I think was just overhyped. It was absolutely fine. I need to stop thinking that books are going to change my life when TikTok tells me that a book is going to change my life. I read Comfort Me with Apples. This is another really short book as well. This is essentially it's one of those books where the less you know, the better, unfortunately. So I apologize for the vagueness that's about to follow. It's essentially about Adam and Eve, but very Stepford Wivesy. We are following our main girl, who is living in a very kind of Stepford Wives-esque community, and she just lives to please her husband, and we kind of learn about the relationship, and I can't tell you much more. What are my notes? Wow, Carrie, that was not helpful. My notes do say that the prose was beautiful. It just didn't change my life. But an interesting novella for sure. For a novella of its size, it was impactful. And if you are just looking for just an eerie, creepy, again, Stepford Wives-esque story with a lot of biblical references, but it weirdly feels removed from time. At times I felt like I was reading about like a housewife from the 80s, and then sometimes I was like, this is a biblical Adam and Eve, and then sometimes I was like, wow, are we on the same planet? So yeah, it was just a very interesting read. Like, I would definitely give it a go if you're looking for something like that, but temper your expectations. I don't think that this is going to alter any life paths, but I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. So comfort me with apples. Next up, I cannot believe that I read this book. I cannot believe what happened. I read this book in public so much. I read a book that I thought was a joke. Like, when I saw the title of this book, I thought there's no way that a publishing house thought this was the title for an adult fantasy by a best-selling author, mind you. I read Warrior, Princess, Assassin by Brigid Kemmerer. I enjoyed A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I really liked the COVID book, the plague book. I'll put it up here. And I also somewhat enjoyed the kind of spin-off from A Curse So Dark and Lonely. So her young adult books, I always really enjoy the premise, immediately can watch the book as if it's a movie. Something about the way that she writes, it is immediately visual. Watching a film, I'm not reading a book, which I think it's one of my favorite parts about reading is when I genuinely forget that I'm looking at a page. She does that for me. Are her stories perfect? No. Actually, never. But I do really enjoy her young adult writing. So I go into her first adult fantasy knowing nothing. And I don't know if I wish that I had a warning, because honestly, it was a jolt to my system. I think I was having kind of a reading slump, especially because I was about to go on an international trip. I get quite nervous. I tend to not really be able to read a week or so before my trip. I was able to read this because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Warrior, Princess, Assassin. It is not about one person. It is in fact about a warrior, a princess, and an assassin. We have 3 POVs. I was immediately hoping this was going to be like an adult Kiss of Deception. If you haven't read Kiss of Deception yet and you are looking for a young adult fantasy, there you go. Don't you dare look into it. Like, don't look anything up. Just read it. Thank you. So I was kind of hoping for that. We are following a kingdom that is in shambles, and we have a princess who has been promised her hand in marriage to this prince/warrior. But what happens when she is deeply in love with a boy that she grew up with that is now working as an assassin? Do you see where all of our characters play? For reasons that I forget, the princess and the warrior are not on good terms. Pretty sure the princess just doesn't want to get married, tale as old as time, but I don't think her hatred was to the level of wanting him dead. But what happens when our assassin is given the task of not only killing the prince, but killing the princess? So in order to save themselves, they run off, and the 3 of them are kind of trying to figure out who is behind these orders to assassinate our 2 main characters, right? It was fine. It's very Brigid Kemmerer, where I love the banter. I get the characters. Like, I feel like they're still acting a little young adult-y. Like, they very much, the princess and the assassin especially, feel very teen coded. So it still kind of felt like young adult until the seeds began to sprout. The seeds that were planted in the beginning that I saw, but I couldn't believe. This is a poly romance. I thought I have like 100 pages left. The book was good, but I was just gonna go to a cafe, get a cookie, finish this book up, right? Tell me why the second I sit down with my delicious coffee and cookie in a window seat in a very public cafe, blasting Christmas music already, by the way, I get like 20 to 30 pages of X-rated smut. Like, when I choose to read a book in public, there's always surprise smut. Just kind of out of the blue. It wasn't bad. Like, you know me, I'm just not a smut person. So like, it wasn't bad. If you like smut, like, there you go. Happy Christmas for you. It was just, for me, so unexpected, so out of the blue. I'm eating a cookie, listening to Christmas music, and it's just like, there is a line in which at one point the girl is just like, and then he stuck his finger in my butthole. And I was just like, put my cookie down, close the book, walked home. Yeah, it's I don't want to give too much away in case you want to be surprised, but yeah, it was just so funny how it went from 0 to 100. Brigid Kemmerer was like, I'm writing an adult book. I'm writing a poly, like a true love triangle. She went for it. So, will I be reading the next one? I don't think so, but that's a book that exists. And like, the title is Warrior Princess Assassin, and it's like this pink sparkly cover. I don't know. Threw me for a loop. Oh, I do have critiques though. Apparently I was very annoyed by the amount of times the assassin character goes still. In my notes it said, don't go in here for any political commentary. Our girl is really spoiled and dumb and horny. It's one of those books where the princess doesn't know they have literal slaves in her kingdom, but it's okay because she's been sheltered. Yeah, they keep making excuses for her, being like, oh, she's literally never left the palace. She doesn't know that slavery exists. One of those. And I also wrote that I don't think the guys really liked the girl that much. I think that they were just really into each other and like needed a buffer. So like, no homo, you know? That's how it felt. I wonder if it will actually end up with them being a throuple, or will they just decide that the boys love each other? And yeah, that's Warrior Princess Assassin for ya. Enjoy. Next up, what is with me and Beauty and the Beast retellings? I feel like last month I had a million. I read another one. This one is called Until the Last Petal Falls. Like I said, Beauty and the Beast retelling, but this is Nigerian folklore inspired. It says it is a queer platonic Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's about a boy who is cursed or monstrous. His parents lock him away in this manor, and the only boy who can save him. They met briefly when they were children, and fate draws them together again when they are much older. You can put the pieces together. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, right? My only complaint about this is that it was short. It's a novella. It was like 150 pages. I think if we were given more time, I would have loved these characters, but just because of how short it was great. I could feel that it could have hit me harder if it were longer. So not the biggest complaint, just truly I wish I had more time with everybody. Like I said, it's queer platonic. I believe both characters kind of on the ace spectrum. I'm forgetting a lot of the details, honestly, but I really liked the house. I kind of liked the imagery of the boy who is cursed, the quote unquote beast. Also just like the naming of things, like how you refer to an older woman or an older man outside of your family, things like that. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. Wish it were longer. Wish it were twice as long. And then it would have been an amazing book. Instead, it was just a solid novella. But if you're looking for something different, a completely different take on a Beauty and the Beast retelling, Until the Last Petal Falls. Oh my God. Speaking of way too short, I've got a bone to pick. When do I not? With Ali Hazelwood. How dare she do this? On the airplane, at this point, I have gotten on the plane, okay? I've got 13 hours and then another 3 hours ahead of me. How dare she write Hot for Slayer and have it only be 90 pages? Diabolical. Hot for Slayer is a novella. It is a romance about a vampire and a vampire hunter, vampire slayer. Dang it. Way too short. Like, no. I really liked this. I thought this was so camp, so stupid. Really good, and it should not have been 90 pages. I mean, even if she just gave it twice as long, again, if it was 180 pages, maybe I would feel less frustrated, but I really loved these characters and I would have read a full-length novel about them. Sick and twisted that she would give us so little. We are following our female vampire who has been followed by this one specific vampire hunter for so long. And you know I have issues with like immortal like stories that last, where our characters are living for centuries. But something about this one, it was fine. It was kind of cute where they keep having these run-ins of him almost catching her and she gets away, and him being like, I'm the only one. If anybody's gonna kill you, it's gonna be me. So what happens when she almost gets killed and he is like, not on my watch, that's my job. So he saves her. But in the process of saving her, maybe he gets amnesia. Okay, what kind of K-drama plot is this? So he forgets that he is a vampire hunter and that she is a vampire. And it's so fun. So if you're in the market for another vampire story, this one was just cute and sappy and too damn short. So Ali Hazelwood, once again. Have I read Mate? No, because I want to reread Bride and I just did not have time. That is on the docket, you know. But yeah, Hot for Slayer, 2 books in a row being great, but like too short. Frustrating, sick and twisted, rude, honestly. That is Hot for Slayer by the Ali Hazelwood. So obviously a 90-page book was not going to get me through a 13-hour flight, so I had another rom-com up my sleeve, and this one was good, but could have been better. This is The Entanglement of Rival Wizards. We are following 2 wizards, 2 students in college, essentially, and they are competing for a grant, a research grant. And their approach to magic is completely different. I forget the 2 different names. It's like conjuring versus evocation, I think it is. They just very much believe in approaching magic in 2 different ways. So imagine their shock and horror when they are both given the research grant, but only if they work together. They are given the grant as partners. So we have 2 wizards that hate each other. Also, one of them is straight up a nepo baby, so I understand the hate. We have 2 wizards that hate each other, trying to work on something together. It was cute. The banter was fun. I just wish there was more yearning. My favorite character is actually the friend. There's like a really wonderful bromance, like a male friendship that is just so wholesome, and that was actually my favorite part of the book. But the romance was good. It just was, the yearning could have lasted a little bit longer, because the final third portion of the book is straight up just smut. Endless smut. So, you know, not my cup of tea, but I did like the characters. I could picture this very, very well. And they were dealing with a lot of other things. Like they all had different family issues. Again, like these friendships, they had lives outside of the relationship, which is what I always love in romance books. So yeah, overall, like it was close to perfect. I just wanted more yearn and less smut. And then I would have been super satisfied. But yeah. Oh, sorry. According to my notes though, do read the trigger warning, because there is a lot of talk of not only an illness in the family, but a couple of the characters go through like some really traumatic stuff. And I think that was handled really well. Again, like a lot of family issues, things like that. Yeah. The more that I think about it, the more that the book kind of tackled more than I thought it did. Yeah, not your average, just like smutty academic rivals to lovers. There was a lot of heart, and a lot of actually darkness in this. So credit where credit's due. I just, give me more yearn is what I always want. Never enough yearn. Thanks. Next up is a book that I wish I read any other time than while I was traveling, because I ended up DNFing it, but it was truly just because of my attention span and my library loan was running out. So this is a DNF completely on me. If you are looking for a fantasy that feels like a folk tale that is told to you around a fire, please read The Door in the Sea. The Door in the Sea is a quest kind of fantasy. I believe it's been described as like a Lord of the Rings, but told through kind of an indigenous tradition. The author is part of the Tlingit Nation, a tribe indigenous to Alaska, and this truly reads like someone is sitting you down and telling this story. So that kind of oral tradition of storytelling really feels evident here. I actually really liked it. It was sassy, like immediately. We have one character that is just the Raven, and he is such a pill. He's so mean, has such an attitude, and it's so funny. Like, it was kind of jarring because all the other characters start off like very just like reasonable and smooth, like, I don't know, like nice people. And then you have the Raven pulling up being like,
you look like your mom ate a lot of trash when she was pregnant with you and gave birth to a raccoon mixed with a human that still stinks like a dumpster.
and you're just like, pardon? Like, rude, but comedic relief. So yeah, we are essentially going on a quest with our main character who kind of creates this team to find an object that can help him and his people fight against the gods, or I believe they're called kush. Like, I don't know if they're gods or monsters, or are they just humans? We don't know. I don't know because I DNF'd it. It's a book that I will definitely return to, but sort of because of that writing style of it feeling like a story being told to you, it was really difficult to like pick up and put down. Like, I would only have time to read it in like 5-minute little moments, like on the bus. Whereas I think if I had time to sit down and just read it in like large swaths, it would flow a lot better and I wouldn't have trouble remembering all the characters and where we were and things like that. Totally my fault on the DNF. That is a picking it up for later when my library hold is not running out and I am not wandering around a country. That is The Door in the Sea. Next book I finished is actually very timely. I am going to have an anxiety attack as I talk about it. I read The Midnight Timetable. This is by Bora Chung. As I am speaking to you, in 24 hours, I will be sitting down with Bora Chung and doing my first ever author chat, little moderation. One of the bookstores here in Seoul that I kind of partner with sometimes, they are hosting a event and a book signing, and they asked me to be the moderator, and I'm terrified. Bora, I've met Bora, great, wonderful person. I feel absolutely comfortable talking to her, but talking about books live with the author, it's like an actual literary genius. Talking to her about her work face to face in front of an audience. If I have any footage of it, I'll insert some of it here if I make it through.
I recently began to find out how much Asians love ghost stories and how much we are invested in and attached to our superstition.
Midnight Timetable. Bora Chung is known for her short story collections. You might have heard of Cursed Bunny or Your Utopia. I'm gonna say it, Midnight Timetable is my favorite so far. I didn't finish Your Utopia, but I did read Cursed Bunny. I was so relieved because I said yes to this interview before I had even read the book, and then I realized, holy shit, her writing always goes like a little bit over my head. I was very worried. But luckily, Midnight Timetable, I immediately got it. It's, instead of short stories, it is a novel told in ghost stories. So it's a connected narrative. It's just kind of told in these vignettes. And it's so dark, but it's so funny. So Midnight Timetable is about a research institute, researches haunted objects. And we are told our story through the eyes of the newest employee, who is basically just working the night shift as security. Her Sunbae, her kind of manager, is telling her all of the stories of her predecessors, of like why all of her previous employees left, and they're all these ghost stories. Immediately you realize that the ghosts are not the scariest part of anybody's story. It was incredibly dark. The topics that she touches on are scary and sad and heartbreaking, but also you'll just randomly get like a joke thrown in that's so stupid. So yeah, I actually really loved this. Genres escape Bora Chung. She just like kind of zigzags around them. So I don't exactly know what to call this, but definitely give this a go, especially if you felt intimidated by her other works. I find that this one was really accessible, and kind of immediately I got it and I enjoyed it. So I'm excited to talk to her about it tomorrow, but I'm also really terrified. So wish me luck. That is Midnight Timetable by Bora Chung, translated by Anton Her. And then we get to what I read in Ireland, and if you watch the video, you already know. I read a rom-com. I read two back-to-back romantic comedies set in Ireland, and the first one I read was highly recommended. Last year I did a video about Halloween themed romantic comedies, and a lot of people were like, oh, you should have also included Morbidly Yours, because it's about a mortician falling in love with his neighbor, okay? Read the reviews, read the premise. I thought, yeah, wow, this sounds really great. I'm gonna save it for when I get to Ireland. Why was this book horrible? This book was so bad. I literally don't even have notes because I think I said it all in my video, but Morbidly Yours is about an American, I think she's from Texas. She is a animator. She lost her husband in a pretty tragic accident a year or so prior to our story, and she needs a fresh start. So she takes this job that she gets for an animation studio in Galway, Ireland. Moves over. One of the first days, as she's unpacking, she's looking at her boxes, she gets a box that is not hers because it's filled with body bags. Decides to go deliver it to the correct address, which is just across the street from her. She walks in thinking it's a bed and breakfast, realizes quickly that it is a mortuary. It is a morgue, hence the body bags. And she starts this really weird friendship with the mortician, who's like a big part of his personality is like, he's more comfortable around dead people than alive people, which is, you know, funny. That you can work with that. He's also represented as being demisexual, and it's one of those tropes where it's like, oh yeah, you are like ace or you are demi until you meet that one person and then you are a horn dog. And I hate that. The storyline doesn't really make sense. It's one of those things where you hear that the girl is really amazing at her job, but you never actually see her be amazing at her job. I appreciated the death jokes until we got to the smut scenes, and the death jokes continued in the sex scenes, calling him the Grim Reaper with his scythe, you know, too much. There's also so much Irish in it, but according to the comments by people who are actually Irish and have studied Irish, very unnatural, slightly incorrect. I cannot verify that, but there is a bonus glossary. There's a glossary in the front of your basic, you know, sláinte fáilte, all of the Gaeilge. There is a bonus Irish glossary in the back with foul words that are apparently like not ones that you would use. So some people have said it's a little Google translated, which, ugh. So yeah, I just did not like this whatsoever. Oh, there's a whole stupid clause. The whole point of this book, I completely forgot, is that our main character can't inherit the family business, the mortuary, unless he is married by the age of 33. And like, surprise, he's 32 and a half. So he's real desperate for a wife. And our girl tries to set him up on dates when, like, obviously they are just destined for whatever reason. We don't really know. Just so dumb. Have a lawyer look at that, you know? It was just, like, really unbelievable and silly. And the, like, funny death jokes in the beginning were the only thing keeping it going. It also, like, did not cover grief well. Like, that's what a lot of the reviews were saying is, like, oh, wow, like, you know, it really tackles grief, how she lost her husband. And I just didn't see that. There's a character that dies in the book, and it's sort of like, oh, she was old. And that's it. Like, it was bizarre. Morbidly Yours. No, thank you. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts though, because I know people who watch this channel recommended it. What did I miss? And if you are familiar with Irish or Gaeilge, was that weird? Yeah, Morbidly Yours. But don't worry. Someone came in to save the day. Another Irish rom-com, this time by an Irish author. One of my favorite Irish authors, in fact, Catherynne Walsh. You know, she's the queen of Christmas romantic comedies. She is coming out with a Christmas novella, I believe, called Merry Little Christmas, I think it's called. Get your hands on that. You're welcome. And then I believe in 2026, she is publishing her first traditionally published book. So please go pre-order that, support her. Love of my life, okay? But I have a couple of her books that I haven't read because I keep them for moments like these, desperate times. And so one of the books I haven't picked up yet is The Matchmaker. And so I read that to cleanse my palate and not end that video that I made on such a weird note, and she didn't let me down. So the Matchmaker is about this teeny tiny town in Ireland that is slowly being taken over by this development company. At first they were like, hey gang, we want to come into your town and we're going to build a golf course or something, and it's going to help bring in, the town is dying. So it's bring people in, you're going to have your restaurants full again, your pubs are going to be full, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be great for everybody. We're going to get a nice highway nearby so you don't have to drive 40 minutes each way to go somewhere. As the years pass, this development expands and it's becoming this resort, it's becoming this everything, and it is swallowing the town and everything that our main character holds dear. So our story starts with her finally snapping. The construction noise has driven her to insanity, into a blind rage, where she busts out of her house in her pajamas to scream at the nearest person in charge. And damn, is it unlucky that that man is super attractive and also has a heart of gold. And so we follow her as she tries to save her town by reigniting this matchmaking festival that the town used to be famous for, in order to prove to like the city council or, the investors of this development site that they are ruining this like cultural hotspot by creating this development. And so she throws this matchmaking festival, and that one pesky person on the development team is around, let's just say. I thought it was really cute. It was not insta-lovey, but like the guy was immediately just like, I am in love. I would ask you to marry me right now. And so that was cute, but also, me and I love a bit of yearning. So I kind of wish that he was a little bit, less forthcoming. It was really cute. This, I think, if you are a big fan of B.K. Borison, specifically Love Light Farms, it gave me very similar vibes. The small town, all of the characters, how everyone is up in each other's business. Honestly, one of the side character romances was the best part of this book. There is a border collie with an attitude. Everything you could want. I really enjoyed it. It was just like a cozy, quick read. That was a wonderful palate cleanser. And it took place in the countryside of Ireland, which is where I was heading right after I finished reading that book. So it was quite sweet. And we drove past the town that actually does have a matchmaking festival every September. So it was a very funny kind of a full circle moment. But yeah, that is The Matchmaker by Catherynne Walsh. I will always recommend her books. Chef's Kiss. Loved. Okay, we're almost done, I promise. Next up, I read Fate's Bane. This is by C.L. Clarke, who wrote a sci-fi book that I'm really supposed to read, The Unbroken. Apparently, this is an excellent sci-fi book. I believe it's a series, constantly recommended to me. I just haven't gotten around to it. So when I saw that they had a novella, I was very interested. She also wrote the Ambessa Arcane novels, if that strikes your fancy. Anyway, yes, I read Fate's Bane. This was perfect for the setting in which I was in, because again, I was bopping through the Irish countryside, and this is a sapphic tale that reads so much like a folk tale or a fairy tale. It is about warring clans. It's never described exactly where it takes place, but for me, I hear clans and I'm in Ireland. I immediately felt like it was a very kind of Irish Celtic feeling. Our story starts where we meet our main character, who is the daughter of the chief of one clan, who basically sent her to live with his enemy so that they would kind of have this unsettled peace. Right? Like, he can't attack his enemy because his daughter is there. They will not attack him because he has given them his daughter. So, one of those situations. But she is raised alongside her father's enemy's chief and his children. And of course, she falls in love with the chief's daughter. What happens though when one day her father comes to take her back, and now we are on different sides of a war that has been declared? This read truly like an old fairy tale. The prose was really indescribable. I don't want to compare it necessarily to Juliette Marié, but how Juliette Marié, when you're reading her work, it feels like you are reading this timeless text. That's very much how Fate's Bane feels. It does not feel like it was something that was written in 2025. And and it just had this kind of ancient feeling to it. Ooh, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, the ending is one that you should just like buckle up for. But really short. I believe it's only 100 something pages. It was just a really wonderful book to be reading in Ireland. So if you are going on some kind of trip that you feel like you are in this place that has a very kind of ancient feel to it, it was just so atmospheric. And yeah, I truly recommend. I don't want to say any more because it's just something to be experienced, and I can't wait to read more of C.L. Clarke's work. That was a good little toe dip, and now I'm confident that I can go into their sci-fi. So that is Fate's Bane. Really quick after that, I read 300,000 Kisses. This is an anthology of queer Greek and Roman, is that it? Yes. Queer love stories, examples of queer love in the ancient world. So just really quick, like sometimes the stories were only one page. It was quite interesting, and I think that it's Seán, Hewitt, and who else wrote it? Luke Edward Hall. Their commentary was very interesting. It was not only were the stories themselves interesting, but the way that broke it down. I just learned a lot. It's one of those books where you find yourself, even if the story is only a page long, you end up spending hours going down rabbit holes. Like luckily I brought my laptop on my trip because I was just going deep, especially because painters would use so much Greek and Roman mythology as inspiration. You can find thousands of different iterations of the same tale represented differently through different artists. And even just, I think it was like the first story, I spent probably a half an hour looking at every painting I could find and seeing how different they were. And Seán and Luke really kind of explained why those differences were and just made you so curious. So I think that it was good. I won't say it was great, but for kind of having to read something in a bus or like you only have 5 minutes or so to read something, this was lovely to just kind of pick up and learn so much. Because I was actually talking to somebody on the trip that I went on that I missed out on Percy Jackson. That was just like a little bit too late for me. I like aged out of it a little. So I feel like I'm always playing catch up when it comes to Greek mythology. So this was a really cool introduction to that. Like I think now I know like my basics, but this was kind of next level, but explained really clearly and thoughtfully. So that is 300,000 Kisses. Not a fave, but if you are interested in Greek and Roman mythology, pick it up at the library. I say 300,000 Kisses. Okay, next up, I am kicking myself. Second to last book. Don't worry, guys. We're almost done. I'm so upset that I did not take notes. I do not know why. I thought that I was going to be able to remember my thoughts on this book. I read Hangsaman by Shirley Jackson. What I remember about this book, we're following a girl who lives in a very bizarre family situation. Her father is this writer that has the biggest ego. He's a narcissist, and he like cuts her down but praises her in this very weird pattern. Her mother is odd in a different way, and our girl is finally leaving this household to find freedom and find herself in college. And that doesn't quite go the way that she thought it would or we thought it would. So I don't want to spoil too much, but this is a book for the overthinkers. If you have a really rich inner monologue, like if you talk to yourself all the time, I just felt weirdly seen by this book. She definitely goes in a different direction than where I went in college, but so much of the way that she overthinks and passes judgment and has simultaneously like a huge ego but zero self-esteem. She was just such a complex person. She was a 17-year-old girl is what it was, and Shirley Jackson really got that. Her characters were all just really bizarre and I really liked it. I will say by the end of it, I was a little like, wait, what's going on? But that's sort of the point of the book. But if you're looking for this kind of unsettling depiction of a 17-year-old girl gaining her freedom, but what does she do with that? And does she ever gain her freedom? Yeah, that was interesting. I read that all the way through London. I was there for like 12 hours and I was just kind of popping from cafe to cafe to bookstore to cafe to bookstore to cafe. And then I was on a really long train ride, and I had to like set timers and tear myself away from the book because I had places to be, things to see. And I couldn't just sit in a cafe all day reading like I wanted to. So that was Hangsaman by Shirley Jackson. She also wrote The Haunting of Hill House. So just her prose is really cool. Just fantastic. Yeah, I underlined so much. Really, if you were ever a teen, yeah, period. if you were a teen, I feel like Shirley Jackson holds a mirror up to at least my 17-year-old self. And it was a scary thing to look at, I think. So yeah, Hangsaman, Shirley Jackson. And last but certainly not least, okay, we've reached the end, guys. I need caffeine. I'm so sorry. I'm so sleepy. I also feel like the last couple of books that I read this month were like a fever dream. So my brain is like mush right now. The final book I read in October 2025 was Girl Dinner by Olivie Blake. Oh yeah, got my hands on it. Thank you, Philadelphia City Library. Olivie Blake, as we know, why is she at the bottom? She's off screen. Is she off screen? Olivie Blake. She is the one author that I love with my whole heart, but I also hate some of her books. We have such a complex relationship. I will always support, I will always be a fan. Didn't like the Atlas Six. Didn't super love Alone with You in the Ether. I think I need to give Masters of Death another try. I think it was just not the right time for me, but I loved One for My Enemy. And I had a really good time with Girl Dinner. My only complaint is that not enough cannibalism. Girl Dinner follows two main characters. We switch POVs back and forth. On one hand, we follow a professor who is kind of drowning in life. She is a new mother. She is just going back to work. She's off of maternity leave. Her husband is just like not with the program. Is sort of like, why aren't you Superwoman? How can you not care for this baby and become a tenured professor and write a book and do that? Okay? She's just going through the motions at this point, and she cares. She cares so much. And I think that the depiction of motherhood in this book, I feel like just from a lot of my friends who are new mothers, spot on. I mean, I believe Olivie Blake has children, so I feel like a lot of this must have been firsthand experience. How simultaneously you are the happiest you've ever been because you have created this being that you love more than you thought you were capable of loving, but at the same time, you mourn the life that you lost, the freedom that you lost, and sometimes you're like, I just want to fucking sleep. I can't do this. I want to quit. I think that she balanced that. It was just so great to read. I really, really loved that character. And then we have a student at the same university who is currently rushing to be a part of this sorority. She has one sorority in mind that she wants to join. And we follow them as, strangely, their stories intersect. You kind of put the pieces together more and more throughout. Yeah, my main complaint is that this was sold as like a horror cannibal book. Not enough cannibalism for me personally, not enough horror. I think the horror really comes in at like the last quarter. What this was a really interesting conversation about womanhood, feminism, what it is to be a girl's girl, what it is to be a good wife, a good mother, a good woman. And she kind of played the devil's advocate. Like, she really gave a lot of perspectives. Like, we have Sloane, who is sort of the like academic working mother who is barely making it work, all right, head barely above water. Then we have a trad wife who is basically like, what is it, ballerina farm? Like, she is a influencer that seems to be absolutely perfect and just very trad wife, stays at home, cooks, grows her own food, sews her own clothes, all that stuff. Then we have mothers who are just, they've got it. Like, they are not only beautiful and put together and just like stylish and smart, and they're doing great in their careers, and then their kids are like eating, sleeping the full night. They're polite, they're clean, like perfect women, quote unquote perfect women. And then we have all of the sorority girls, which they're all characters in and of themselves. We just had women of like every flavor trying to figure out what it is to be a good woman, and I thought those conversations were really cool. And I just really loved all of those conversations. It made me think a lot about things that I believe, and it didn't push one narrative. And I think that that's really important, because I think nowadays a lot of books will come at us with, this is the correct answer, this is the correct way to think about a thing, but Olivie Blake kind of gave us every argument and was like, check it out, none of these really work, choose your poison, sort of. So I really like that, because it really then turned it on to me to decide what I thought. And I'm not so sure about the ending. I actually think the ending, part of me thinks the ending is brilliant. Part of me thinks the ending is confusing. It's one of those endings that I could sit with and I'd love to like sit down and theorize and talk to people about it. At first I didn't like it, and now I'm sort of like, you know? So that was Girl Dinner. Yeah, I really liked it. Like, I was actually talking to Kurt about it last night, that there's this one line where they're talking about getting older and kind of arguing about getting Botox or dyeing your hair or anything to keep you looking younger, versus aging naturally. What is the feminist take, kind of thing? And one of the characters said something along the lines of like, young girls are scared of getting older because once they're no longer physically attractive, or they can't be really seen as like a sexual being, men respect them a lot less. And so that sort of myth, or that belief that men gave a shit about you, fades away. You realize that, oh no, they actually didn't respect me, they just saw me as a sexual object, so I had worth to them. And once you lose that, you realize like, oh, you were worthless the whole time. It was just, which, do I 100% agree with that? No, but there were just so many things that I was like, ooh, you know? So overall, really enjoyed Girl Dinner, highly recommend. That was a good way to end October, and that's what I read. Like I said, it was a lot of short books. My attention span was not all there because I was traveling the entire month, but I'm very, very happy with what I read. I will say, if I had to pick a top 5, I would say Girl Dinner, Fate's Bane, Midnight Timetable, and then either Matchmaker or Hot for Slayer, I would say. But an interesting month. November is going to be even weirder. I somehow managed to get like 8 holds out from the library at the same time. I'm panicking. They're all like 500 plus page fantasies that are the first book in a series or a duology. So I'm just screwed. I'm currently reading Fallen City by Adrienne Young. So far, so good. So just like, keep me in your thoughts and prayers in terms of the library gods, because yeah, I have like no time, no attention span. I'm napping constantly. There's no way I'm finishing these books. And I have waited weeks and weeks and weeks. Did I push them back? No, because I didn't read the whole Libby changing their holds system. So I don't know if I can even push it back. It's my own fault. It's my own fault. I have built this circle of hell for myself, and I just have to live with it. So yeah, November could be a disaster in terms of reading. We will see. I'm going to immediately take a nap. I'm going to drink a little coffee. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to wake up recharged, and hopefully my jet lag will reset itself by the time I need to talk to Bora tomorrow, because that is prime nap time currently. So yeah, hope you all are doing well. If you want to check out my where I was for the past 5 weeks, thank you so much for understanding why I went a little MIA. I will always link my vlog channel down below. Also linked below, of course, is information about Squarespace. You can go to squarespace.com/caricakes to get 10% off your first website or domain. Highly recommend, as usual, if you're thinking of starting a business or any kind of online presence for 2026. Now's the time. All right, I'm gonna go. My brain has actually just turned off. I felt the switch turn off. I will see you guys next time. I promise to be more coherent, more animated. I promise to take notes about the books that I'm reading. So far I have read 4 books. 2 of them have been horrifying. So I'm if nothing else, it's going to be an exciting wrap up. So I'll see you then. Love to you always. Let me know what you're reading as usual. And send me your jet lag tips, because Kurt and I both thought that we were landing here at midnight. So we were like, perfect, get home, go to sleep, wake up, jet lag will be solved. We landed at noon, threw everything off. We're confused about everything right now. But it just takes time, and I just have to be patient. And yeah, I'm too tired to read. Every time I start reading, I fall asleep. So I'm frustrated, but happy to be home. So I will see you next time. Okay, enough rambling. I hope you're all well. So happy to be back. Catch you later. Bye.